Most people don't avoid investing because they don't want to grow their money. They avoid it because investing feels overwhelming, intimidating, and strangely fragile. One wrong move, one bad decision, one poorly timed investment, and everything feels like it could fall apart. So instead of investing, they wait. They wait for the right time. They wait until they feel more confident. They wait until they understand everything. And while they wait, inflation quietly does its work. Opportunities pass unnoticed, and the gap between intention and action grows wider every year. The truth is, investing was never supposed to feel this stressful. It only feels that way because modern investing has been turned into entertainment, speculation, and performance anxiety. Charts move constantly. Headlines scream urgency. Social media glorifies speed, risk, and extreme outcomes. And somewhere along the way, investing stopped being about building stability and started feeling like a test you could fail at any moment. But real investing doesn't look like that. To understand how to invest without stress, confusion, or constant monitoring, we need to step away from strategies and products for a moment and talk about mindset. Because most investment mistakes are psychological, not technical. The first misconception is that investing requires intelligence or timing. People assume successful investors are smarter, faster, or more informed. In reality, the biggest advantage in investing is not intelligence. It's structure. Structure protects you from emotion. Structure reduces decisions. Structure creates consistency when motivation fades. Without structure, investing becomes reactive. You chase trends. You panic during downturns. You hesitate when action is needed most. And eventually, you convince yourself that investing isn't for you. But the problem was never you. It was the absence of a system. To make investing calm and sustainable, we need a better model, one that removes pressure and replaces it with clarity. At its core, investing only has three real components. Everything else is noise. The first component is time. Time is the most powerful force in investing, yet the most underestimated. Compounding doesn't care about excitement or intelligence. It only cares about consistency and patience. The second component is exposure. This means owning productive assets that grow over time, not guessing winners, not chasing trends, just exposure to long-term growth. The third component is behavior. This is where most people fail. Emotional decisions, overreaction, hesitation, and constant tinkering quietly destroy returns more effectively than bad investments ever could. When you simplify investing down to these three components, the path becomes much clearer and much calmer. Now let's address the biggest fear people have. What if I invest at the wrong time? This fear is incredibly powerful, and it keeps more people out of the market than any lack of money ever could. But the fear itself is built on a misunderstanding. There is no perfect time to invest. There is only time in the market. Trying to time the market requires predicting the future, and even professionals fail at this consistently. The irony is that waiting for certainty often causes more damage than making imperfect decisions early. This is why long-term investors don't focus on entry points. They focus on process. Process removes the emotional burden. When investing becomes automatic, consistent, and boring, fear loses its power. And boring is exactly what we want. Real investing is intentionally boring. It doesn't require daily attention. It doesn't reward constant activity. It rewards staying invested while others react. Now let's talk about what people should actually invest in, without jargon, hype, or unnecessary complexity. For most people, the foundation of investing should be broad, diversified exposure to the market. This means owning many companies at once instead of trying to pick individual winners. Why? Because diversification reduces risk without sacrificing long-term growth. It smooths the journey. It makes outcomes more predictable, and predictability reduces stress. This is why broad market funds exist. They are not exciting. They don't make headlines, but they quietly do exactly what long-term investors need. Once exposure is set, the next question is allocation. How much goes where? This is not about perfection. It's about balance. Your allocation should reflect your tolerance for volatility, not your appetite for excitement. If market drops cause anxiety, your allocation is too aggressive, regardless of what any book or influencer says. A good investment plan is one you can stick to during uncomfortable periods. Anything else will eventually fail. Now comes the most overlooked part of investing: automation. Automation turns good intentions into real outcomes. It removes decision fatigue. It ensures progress continues even when life gets busy or stressful. Automated investing means contributions happen without negotiation. You don't debate whether this month feels like a good time. The decision was already made. This single shift, from manual to automatic, changes everything. It transforms investing from a task into a background process. And when investing runs quietly in the background, consistency becomes effortless. At this point, many people ask, how much should I invest? The honest answer is, enough to matter, but not enough to cause stress. Investing should never feel like deprivation. If it does, it won't last. Sustainable investing balances progress with quality of life. This is where realism matters more than optimization. A smaller amount invested consistently beats a larger amount invested inconsistently every time. Now let's talk about monitoring, or more accurately, the lack of it. Constantly checking your investments creates emotional noise. It turns normal fluctuations into perceived problems. It encourages unnecessary action. Long-term investing does not require frequent observation. In fact, the less you look, the better most people perform. The goal is not to avoid awareness, but to avoid obsession. Reviewing your investments periodically, not constantly, keeps you informed without triggering emotional reactions. This brings us to the final piece: patience. Patience is not passive. It's active restraint. It's choosing not to interfere with a process that works over time. Markets will fluctuate. Headlines will change. Fear will appear. Confidence will disappear and return. A system absorbs all of this. Emotion does not. And that's the real secret to investing without stress. You don't eliminate uncertainty. You eliminate the need to react to it. If investing feels confusing, intimidating, or overwhelming, it's because it's being framed incorrectly. Investing is not about prediction. It's about participation. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need constant attention. You need a simple structure that respects human psychology and rewards consistency. When investing is designed this way, it stops feeling risky and starts feeling responsible. And once investing becomes calm, everything else gets easier. Money feels less fragile. The future feels more stable. And progress, while quiet, becomes inevitable.